Welcome to the Daily Dharma, a gentle podcast where we read a philosophical story every week and reflect on how it relates to everyday life. Our focus is to use Buddhist philosophy to understand the complexity of modern life and find achievable and accessible pathways to peace. Hi everyone, welcome to the Daily Dharma. In this episode, we'll be talking about how we can learn to move from rumination to realization. The story that we'll be reflecting on this theme is called Through the Cracked Window, and it comes from the book Zen Stories with Master Seiji by Daiki Shimada. Here is how the story goes. Master Seiji's house, usually a quiet place for reflection and learning, had a noticeable change one day. A big, beautiful window, usually clear and inviting, suddenly had a large crack, distorting the view of the serene garden outside. During a casual gathering with a few friends, the conversation inevitably turned to the cracked window. Expecting Seiji to be concerned or upset, one of his friends pointed it out. But Seiji merely looked at the window and then back at his guests with a smile. Ah, but isn't it a beautiful reminder that even our attempts to frame nature are imperfect? We are all, in our essence, beautifully flawed. The evening progressed, filled with laughter and deeper discussions, and the window did occasionally catch someone's eye, but most of his friends really reflected on Seiji's words. As the gathering wound down, Seiji, with a slight chuckle, pulled one friend aside. "You know, I really have no clue how to fix that. Can you give me a hand?" The request, so unexpected from someone who had earlier seemed to embrace the window's flaw so wholeheartedly, brought forth a round of laughter. There are so many things about this story that I find deeply enduring, but also very meaningful, because lately I find myself, perhaps due to stress, as I am in that dreaded time of exams and assignments and everything becoming due, I'm dealing with a much smaller amount of energy to really process the world around me. And as a result, I find myself ruminating over and over again about the least favorite parts of my journey thus far. And yesterday, I kind of came to this realization that why do I keep dwelling on the few things that really hurt and not on the 10 things that have brought me joy and that have gone beautifully? And I do think that the story is a perfect analogy of sometimes how we can really keep standing there with the cracked window, looking out at the view and thinking to ourselves, wow, everything looks terrible. But the thing is, we know that there is a crack in the window, and that crack could be pain. It could be this hurt from before. It could be a lot of things, but whatever it is, that viewpoint that we choose to look at a situation or the experience we had is causing us pain. And it's not that the pain is bad, but I think even within myself, I had to really say, well, there comes a point where you realize the rumination is only causing you more pain and not actually diminishing it. I wasn't learning anything new about the situation. I wasn't learning anything new about how I could have dealt with it better. And in a way, I had to really stop myself in my thoughts and say, hey, I did my best. These hurtful things happened. But at some point, I do have to let it go. I have to let the hurt fade into the past. And that realization has really helped me to slowly detach myself from those pockets of rumination that I've been experiencing. And I think the story that we read today is very much a good reminder of that in the ways that we spoke about before, which is how the window being cracked is a perfect metaphor for ruminating on things in a way or from that perspective of hurt, but also how easy it is to actually replace the window, maybe with the help of a friend, maybe with the help of another resource, to change the view of the situation so it becomes not necessarily good, but something that's full of clarity, something that is full of wisdom and with this energy of growth. I think ultimately, sometimes we get stuck in rumination because we think that the pain is going to bring us something else. We think that the pain is there by itself to really reinforce a lesson. And to an extent, that could be true. But when you're ruminating on the same few things over and over again, and you realize that you've learned nothing new about these situations, that they continue to hurt, perhaps even more than before, that's when you can really begin to shift and ask yourself, is this really what I need right now? Is rumination and continually going over these feelings, these thoughts, these experiences what I really need? Because ultimately, the realization I came to is that allowing myself to be in those moments in the past over and over again, it took so much energy and joy from my day. And again, I think the thing is, a lot of this is unconscious. We are wired to pay attention to the things that hurt, that scare us, that make us feel lesser than, because that is what our brain pinpoints as danger. But when we keep ruminating about the danger, about the hurt, and it doesn't go anywhere productive, we do have to come to a point where we realize that this pain has been my guest in my heart and in my mind. And it is now time to gently start moving on to other guests and other feelings and other experiences. I think perhaps within myself, when it comes to these ruminations, I feel like the only thing to learn, really, at this point, after thinking about it for so much and so long, is next time these things happen, I'll take a different approach. But I accept that I did things the way I did because it's what I knew best. And ultimately, that's all we can do is just learn from the approaches we've had before and then try our best to adjust the approach in the future. There really isn't much beyond that. But of course, the hurt needed to be heard. The hurt needed to be felt. And it has been. But then now that it's been felt, I have to slowly and gently let that go. And sometimes it's not just our own rumination that's hard, but to hear the ruminations of others. Because we want our friends and our family to be able to gracefully and gently and kindly move on and heal from the pain. But pain is very complicated and very difficult, and everyone is on their own journey with regards to their pain. But I do think that when we are aware of our own pain, and in this case, our own rumination, And we have that greater self-awareness to pinpoint that, yes, it is time to move on from this. It is time to kindly say goodbye to this rumination and to move into other feelings and thoughts and perspectives and experiences. I think when we show that process in real time to other people, in a way, it gives them permission to do so for themselves. Because I do think that ultimately, when we lead by example rather than simply telling people what to do, I do think that that alone is the greatest gift we can give to our friends and family. Because then they know this is an option for me. This is an option for my pain and my experiences. So if you are ruminating on something and you feel like you've been stuck in the same place for a long time, maybe, like me, it is a time to reflect and ask yourself, is this rumination taking me to a place of growth and expansion? Or maybe is it time to kindly and gently, slowly let it go? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate everyone that's been writing to me and also for your patience in me getting back to you sometimes. I really enjoy reading everyone's messages and stories as well. I hope you have a beautiful, safe, and joyful week ahead of you. And if there's anything you'd like to share, please email me anytime at dailydharmapodcast@gmail.com. Until next week.